This is a flyby of the Capitals of East Anglia Audax that was run on the 22nd of August. The flyby shows some of the main participants. My apologies if I left you off. I wasn't really expecting to finish this ride, so I didn't bother taking any film equipment with me. So I've harvested footage from my own mobile phone and from my riding companions and tried to put it together and tell the story as best I can. Well, let's start. Nick down here started at Saffron Walden and the main group started at Cambridge, and there was also a small group that joined us at Brinkley. I'm running this at 260 times full speed in order to compress it down to less than 5 minutes. Along this section we had a good tailwind coming from the southwest of about 10 miles an hour with gusts up to about 15 miles an hour. Nick and the main group met up at Lavenham. This is where I took a small splinter group of slower riders off the front while we left the faster group to get some food and drink in Lavenham. This poor soul left behind was Amir, who had broken his bike and had called home to get a replacement. He caught us up later. My group reached Woodbridge, where we had our first breakfast ahead of the faster group, and we left just as they arrived. This next section was fabulous as the wind had strengthened slightly and now was directly behind us. My group reached Dunwich first, where we had our second breakfast at the beachside cafe. The fast group yet again turned up just as my slower group was about to leave. Along this next section from Dunwich to Norwich we had a good strong side wind. However, the lanes were well sheltered and we didn't get buffeted too much. In the last 10 kilometres into Norwich we actually had a 3/4 tailwind, so we actually made really good time. Despite this, I think we were all pleased to get to Norwich, where we could have a nice long rest and contemplate the 120 kilometres of headwind that was ahead of us. Yet again the faster group caught us up just before we were about to leave the cafe in Norwich. My slower group decided to stop at a shop in Watton. This is where the fast group came past us. I don't think they even noticed that we had stopped. It would have been nice to get on the back of that fast group for this headwind section, where the winds were at a sustained speed of about 15 miles an hour, with gusts up to about 35 miles an hour. However, it was not to be. Here we almost caught the faster group. At one point we were only about 200 metres behind them, but we just couldn't close the gap. Eventually we had to let them go and battle the headwinds on our own. P.S. Faster group riders, do not feel guilty at this point. We did stop at a service station near Ely in order to get a final set of supplies for the last leg back to Cambridge. By this time it was dark, and this last section from Ely to Cambridge was lit only by the lights from our bikes. Despite the wind having dropped a bit, I found this last section actually quite tough. As we approached Cambridge, members of the group went different ways to go home. Nick, though, had to go all the way to Saffron Walden, about an extra 20 or 25 kilometres. However, he's a hard man and I don't think it fazed him one bit. The ride statistics are 316 kilometres in an elapsed time of 17 hours 24 minutes. The moving time was 13 hours and 2 minutes, giving an average speed of 24.2 kilometres an hour. I'd covered just over 2,000 metres of climbing. I weighed myself the next morning and I'd lost 2.4 kilos of mass.